Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. Guilds of Ravnica release day is right around the corner, which means we're all going to be drafting a lot. In this video, we're going to go over all of the best commons and uncommons in each color and each guild to help you prepare for this draft extravaganza. Get your notepads ready because we have a ton to talk about. Let's get you ready for this new limited environment. I do hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, remember that like button right down there helps out a lot. As always, we're going to begin with white, go through the colors, then talk about the guilds. The best white uncommon is Conclave Tribunal. This is a first pick in limited most every single time. The only time you wouldn't first pick this card is when your rare is insane. Always prioritize this not only for Convoke decks, but all decks. As far as non-removal is concerned, Rock Charger is what you want to look out for. You cannot underestimate the Grant flying trigger in this meta. Oftentimes you will simply win the game flying over your opponents. Rock Charger is good in any white deck, but particularly good in Boros strategies due to Mentor triggering really easily on it. Pick these up early. And finally, an honorable mention to Sunhome Stalwart. 2 mana 2/2 with so much upside I can't even handle it. It's an early pick for any white deck at all. The commons are much less exciting for white, but there are some worth chasing after. The first is Luminous Bonds. Don't let anyone tell you different. This card is top tier removal and worthy of an early pick in draft. There aren't many commons you'd pick before Luminous Bonds, so if you're looking at a draft pack and the rare and uncommons are terrible, Bonds is a great first pick. Don't shy away because it's common. Then we have Parhelion Patrol, the best white common creature by far. 4 mana for a 2/3 with Flying, Vigilance, and Mentor really drives the point home. This thing is sweet. And while you'd rather first pick Luminous Bonds, this is one of the better creatures at this rarity. Good slot in for a Mentor deck, or start of Mentor deck, or start of anything really. The card's just straight good. Moving on to blue uncommons, the best overall blue uncommon is probably Citywatch Sphinx. This thing is a house. Even though it just surveils, which is great for Dimir, it's good for any deck. 6 mana for a 5/4 flyer is almost impossible to deal with in the air without direct removal, and any deck would be happy to surveil 2 on death. This card's all upside. Now, besides the Sphinx, the next best uncommons in blue are Nightveil Sprite and Thumpbound Phantasm, but both are obviously skewed for surveil. Here's the thing. You get to decide which direction you want to go in a draft. You can decide to take an early stance and pick up surveil synergy cards, especially in pack 2 or 3 when you've already decided on the strategy. The Sprite and Phantasm become way better. These are both amazing cards, and I wanted to point them out because if you're going to surveil at all, they're first pickable for sure. I think it's pretty much universally agreed upon that Watcher in the Mist is the best blue common, if not one of the best commons in the entire set. This Spirit is a house, 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer that surveils 2 and enters the battlefield. Ooh, that's strong and worthy of an early pick in any blue deck. It isn't specific to surveil. This is one of those cards you'll play in anything that can generate blue mana. Look for these early, they will not last long in packs. The other 2 blue commons I want to mention are Capture Sphere and Unexplained Disturbance. Both of these are good in all blue decks. I know that Disappearance has Surveil, and that's great for Surveil decks, but it's also great for any blue deck. It's a tempo ruiner, and the Capture Sphere is essentially a removal spell. Both of these are solid commons, and while I probably wouldn't want to first pick either of them, if you're stuck with nothing in your pack, these are solid blue common options. Moving right along to black uncommons, Price of Fame is the best black uncommon. I do not feel like this is particularly close, with Surveil 2 on top of an instant speed kill spell with the potential for cost reduction in a format with a non-zero amount of dangerous legendaries. Price of Fame might as well be a mythic rare. This is a card you absolutely want to first pick. It does everything you want at a fair cost, good for all black decks anywhere ever. I really hope that's clear enough. There are a few other black uncommons that are powerful, but only if you're running the right deck. Lotleth Giant is actually one of the stronger cards in the set, but you should be in Undergrowth to take advantage. It is a big body for a big cost, but that Undergrowth trigger can dome your opponent for a lot of damage, enough to win you the game for sure. Lotleth Giant is a card you look for when you know you want to be in Undergrowth. Whispering Snitch works kind of the same way with Surveil decks. Surveil is a mechanic that's on basically everything Dimir, and the Snitch is super cheap, has a huge butt, and rewards you endlessly for your commitment to surveillance. Even though it only triggers the first time you surveil each turn, that's each turn, including your opponent's turn. Those 2-point life swings add up really quickly and limited. If you are dead set on Surveil, or you've already started taking the pieces, do not pass this card. You'll signal to the rest of the table that Surveil is open. You do not want to be that guy. Black commons are straightforward. Deadly Visit and Dead Weight are far and away the best black commons. Nothing else comes remotely close to them. They both work really well in all black decks, and don't let the cost on Deadly Visit scare you away. 5 mana at sorcery speed is still great to destroy creatures and surveil. Play both of these, pick them early and often. As far as uncommons go, red came to win. The color has one of the deeper top-tier uncommon pools. Inescapable Blaze and Lava Coil are direct removal spells, and they are both very powerful. The Blaze can hit the face if it has to, and the Coil exiles creatures, messing with multiple mechanics in this set. Both of these are first pick worthy. Personally, I'd prioritize the Coil, looking to keep my curve relatively low and my splash options open, but that's only if you somehow have both in the same pack. More often than not, especially if your rare is crap, you're first picking either of these. Goblin Crater Maker is also a solid early pick red uncommon. It comes with neat versatility, and at the very least, a creature that has to be dealt with before you can trigger the ability and shock something. It can chump great before you activate it, just an all-around good card that will go pretty early in packs. Also, speaking of early in packs, Hellkite Whelp is also a strong choice. 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer may not seem exciting, but when you get to ping a defender on attack, that's more important than you might think, considering just how many 1 toughness creatures there are in this format. Spoiler alert, there are more than a few of them. Another early pick and limited, strong card in any red deck. As far as red commons are concerned, you're going to want to look for Command the Storm and Direct Current. One of them is an insane damage-based removal spell that will destroy nearly everything in this format, and the other, well, you get to cast the other one twice, double shocking something if you want to. The power in Jumpstart is its resourcefulness. It turns dead cards into valuable ones, so even if you aren't in Izzet, it still has value. Much like red uncommons, the green uncommons are impressive. There's a lot to work with, but each good green uncommon has a specific role to play. Arboretum Elemental is the premier Convoke payoff card, to be completely honest. This stupid thing having hexproof is an absolute nightmare for any deck in the format. There's almost no way to deal with this card directly. If you're in Convoke or any mass creature strategy, it's worth playing for the cost reduction, but if you aren't, I'd consider shying away since 9 mana is a lot without taking shortcuts. Next up is District Guide. This card is actually pretty dang good if you have gates. Now, don't get me wrong, the guide is going to perform just fine searching for basic lands, but its real value is in the gate search, the color fixing game. It's a 3 mana 2/2 that fixes you, guarantees a land drop, and has a respectable power and toughness. Just flexible enough to be valuable with any deck running at least a few gates. Pick these up if your deck matches that description. Crawl Harpooner is a huge payoff card for Undergrowth, and as you go through your packs and you see Undergrowth come together, the Harpooner gains even more value. Ignore the fact that it's a 3/2 for 2 with reach and no downside, just ignore that. The Undergrowth trigger is crazy strong, letting you massacre something in the air. It's so dirty, you don't even have to fight if you don't want to. Actually, any green deck can run this card and be happy. I'll never say no to a 2 mana 3/2 with reach and no downside. This card is great everywhere, just particularly great in Undergrowth decks. The last green uncommon I want to mention is Affectionate Indrik, and this adorable beast fits into anything. Doesn't matter what kind of green deck you're playing, you will always want a 4/4 that fights for you. Pick this up early, it's a removal spell with upside disguised as an adorable, lovable draft beast thing. Now, there are some top-tier green commons, thank goodness. The first is Prey Upon, obviously. It's difficult to ignore green removal in any set, but especially this one. Prey Upon is good no matter what deck it's in, so don't worry about that. Just make sure you have enough creatures, at least 15 in the deck, which shouldn't be an issue considering you're playing green. Solid removal, pick these up relatively early. The other 2 green commons I need to mention are mechanic specific, Siege Worm and Vigor Spore Worm. In one-on-one games, casting Siege Worm for the full 7 is not going to feel good. This card is meant to be cast off Convoke, so that's where you need to use it. It gains a lot of value in a Selesnya deck or even a Naya deck that splashes red. You just need a mass of creatures. This isn't meant to be cast for the full cost, so try not to do that. Now, Vigor Spore Worm, on the other hand, does have some generic value as a 6/4 for 6, but the Undergrowth trigger is the only reason we're even talking about it. If you have enough going on in your yard, it enters the battlefield and makes something huge in addition to the 6/4 body it brings with it, which means it has immediate value on the board and value later. The worm does it all. If you're an Undergrowth even a little bit, Vigor Spore should be high on your priority list of commons. It is a great card. Now that we've covered all the colors, we're quickly going to go over which guild card should entice you into committing to said guild. Remember, seeing one good card doesn't mean you commit to a guild right away, but the ones we talk about here will let you know if the guild you want is open, and more importantly, if it's even worth going into. We'll begin with the Dimir. If you're playing this color combination, you want the fundamentally good cards: Discovery and Dispersal, House Guild, Mage Knight Veil Predator, Notion Rain, Whisper Agent, and Darkblade Agent. Of these cards, Discovery and Dispersal and House Guild Mage are first pickable. The commons are what you're looking for to fill your Dimir ranks. If you do not see these in packs, there's a good chance someone else is cutting you in Dimir, so keep an eye out. You need these cards. Next up is Izzet. Now this guild is a bit more difficult to get off the ground, but you have more cards to work with. The entire point of the guild is to cast everything all the time, so really any spells in blue and red will help you out, but the key to winning is getting some of these. Crackling Drake, League Guild Mage, and Wee Dragonauts, to a lesser degree the Cyclops. Anyone running an Izzet deck needs to have a bevy of powerful spells, but more importantly than that, they need a way to win. These creatures that get pumped based on spellcast, these win games. You need cards to win the game if you're going deep on Izzet. Look for them. Even the simple ones like Fire Urchin and Electrostatic Field and the aforementioned Piston Fist Cyclops are incredibly important to this deck coming together. As you open and pass packs, get these cards. If there's even one other Izzet player at your table, they will be looking for these, so don't say I didn't warn you. The Selesnya mechanic is Convoke, which makes guilds like this a bit weird because you kind of get Convoke from just playing Magic, you mass creatures, you cast your bigger creatures, but there are a few Selesnya cards that if you get early can absolutely convince you to go into those colors. In addition to the bomb rares, Conclave Cavalier and the Laddev Champion are insane. Both of these cards are high priority picks and are even worthy of first picks out of your first pack. Both of these cards are reasons to start looking at Selesnya for your deck. They're both full of value, so keep them in your mind when you're looking for signs on which guild to commit to. The good cards in Golgari are actually a bit weird. You don't even necessarily need Undergrowth for them to be good, which I find interesting. Golgari Find Broker is one of the best uncommons in the entire set, and you don't need Undergrowth for it to be baller as heck. The card's just plain good and definitely first pickable, the same with Status and Statue. It's either a good combat trick or an instant speed, affordable removal spell that has versatility. Another solid card that doesn't need Undergrowth. As a matter of fact, the only top tier Golgari card out of the uncommon or common slot that really synergizes with Undergrowth at all is Glowspore Shaman, one of the few Undergrowth enablers in the set. It isn't as fancy as the Find Broker or the Split card, but taken this early is quite intelligent if you want to move into Undergrowth and get everyone else off of it. Remember, there are almost no cards that synergize directly with that mechanic. Glowspore Shaman is an all-star, so make sure to go after it. I do want to mention a few Golgari commons. Erstwhile Trooper and Rhizome Lurcher are the best Undergrowth commons you're going to get. So again, if you're in that Undergrowth deck or there's a bomb rare that pushes you that way, look for these commons. They'll help fill your deck with creatures that are actually good thanks to Undergrowth. It's just a small note. The last guild we're looking at is Boros, and that's fitting considering we have the most to talk about here. Unlike the other guilds, Boros has the most top tier uncommons, which means there should be more than enough to go around for multiple players. Boros has already been hailed as the most consistent and even safest guild to choose in Limited, and it seems the card pool supports those claims. Boros Challenger, Justice Strike, Integrity and Intervention, Truefire Captain, and Swathcutter Giant are all first pickable uncommons. Even Sky Knight Legionnaire common is a high pick. The point I'm trying to make here is that Boros should be a bit more forgiving at a table of 8 drafters when 2, even 3 people draft Boros. It looks like it'll be the safest guild out of the gate. So if you're looking for consistency or the most flexible guild, Boros might be for you. There's a lot of depth there, so keep that in mind. I know I threw a lot of information at you and this video is really long, so if you made it this far, put a little smiley face in the comments. That way we all know who the cool kids are. Anywho, what did you think? Was this helpful to you at all? Any questions, concerns, favorite Subway sandwich? I want to hear everything. So please leave your thoughts in the comments and we will talk about them. Also, be sure to stay tuned to the channel for new standard content, more Color Pie philosophies, Commander content, and just a lot more. And as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Guilds of Ravnica is releasing very soon, but you can still pre-order your boxes on TCG Player right now for $92 each, way cheaper than most anywhere else. If you don't have a local game store or yours is charging way too much, you can click the link on this screen right here. It's so easy and it helps the channel, so it's a win-win. Enjoy.